So, guys, you might start. I'm going to start with Kate because unfortunately you have six. Okay, so you're going to our questions. I'm interested, right? We know we're living this significant year of change. We know that technology in particular is probably something that I have in minds. I'm interested really in what's different about this era for you as a manager. So, what are we feeling in terms of this year?
Yeah, I think this last year even is much different. Just the sheer pace of innovation, and obviously the buzzword is AI, and for good reason. The challenge we had is keeping up with everything. There's a new tool, a new model, and the challenge as a leader is you want to encourage people to use it, but you also have probably a legal team and an AI policy where the company sensitive information in, and so we're kind of on one hand just going, embrace it, encourage, experiment, and on the other hand, do it safely and make sure that there's no legal data.
Yeah.
So you're becoming more the legal expert and keeping up with the pace of the tools. At past life, I would be more like a project manager, making sure the work gets done at time now, instead of actually be keeping up with all the tools.
Yeah, I might open that question up, guys. So, the same question we would be using a bit of AI, shall we say, in our own work. Just interested in your views on this changing of responsibilities, this AI world that we're living in, everybody's talking about.
Yeah. The pace is that Casca. There's no way to deny it. Or the buzzword of AI comes also another buzzword, that productivity, right? And when we hear productivity, it can sound really nice and slight, but in our minds, it's like more stress, more things to do. And we want to save time and money. That's a shame world as well, right? We are living in a capitalist world after all, so we can't deny it. But that's how we're doing with all the specs all this time that we are saving. Are we utilizing it to connect with our team, to talk eye to eye, or are we just adding more tasks in our to-do lists? So it's not because we can automate it that we should automate it, right? I see more and more. I was just in the AI Summit a few weeks ago and talking about the interconnection of human and technology that you just referred to a few minutes ago, and augmenting the human is where magic. Some people are seeing what we're doing and the pension we pay in this new technology, this new buzzword that is today's your employees and candidates, tomorrow they're going to be your clients, and how are you treating them? Utilizing this new technology.
So I might ask you, you guys in many ways are at the leading edge of AI. Just from a side, I'm interested in your perspectives on, the impact of AI in general in your workforce, right? And you've got through a lot of change yourself in this organization. I should say this now, 33 years, is that correct? 37 years in Cadence, which is incredible. So you've seen it off, right? And you're right at the leading edge of technology yourself. So what's your take on things?
So, Barry, before I answer that question, I just want to, on behalf of Cadence, once again, welcome everybody else. So thank you for being here this morning. In the technology world, change has always been a part of our industry. Right? I mean, I still remember 27 years ago when I started my career, I remember in one of the early discussions, I was told that, look, the technology world changes ever so often. You're going to have to unlearn and relearn every 7 to 10 years, right? Now what's happened is, it used to be 7 to 10 years back then, now it's 7 to 10 months, right? If you look at the pace at which new technology is coming up, especially in the AI world, right? And if you just go back to the last 2.5, 3 years, starting with generative AI to now we're talking about agentic AI, and going forward we're talking about physical AI. The change is happening so fast that our ability to digest the change as leaders, for example, to understand the implications of that change to our industry, to our customers, to our employees, to implement that change, we are always behind the ball. We're always behind the curve on this one. So things are changing very, very rapidly. So that's one aspect that's very important. For Cadence, obviously our intense focus is on enabling our customers with products that improve their productivity. So a lot of our AI focuses on that front. We encourage our employees to use AI as much as possible to enhance their own productivity as well, right? And to your point, Maria, I think we rely more and more on technology to do what shall I say, perform the tasks, the classical tasks that managers had historically done, because of real-time availability of large amounts of data and systems that can harness that data and make decisions for us. I think we have to pivot to much more intense focus on the human side of our responsibilities as leaders and managers. I think that becomes far more important than it has ever been in the past. It's always been important, but I think going forward that becomes far more important.
And it's an interesting point. One of the things some of our research in Future Work Institute, we're talking about this year of hyper-efficient organizations, right? So I don't know if any of you know the stats on this, but an organization today that's technology enabled can do 100 times the work of an organization in the 1950s who had 100 times the amount of people. So we follow that path. One person technically could be the equivalent of a relatively large scale organization working with AI. So just to give you a bit of context there, I'm interested in the other side of that. So we've got AI now potentially can do all, so that's really interesting stuff for us. Let's talk about those skills that are ultimately very, very human. Let's not call those soft skills, things we've all got past that, but those human skills that transverse, all sorts of areas. Some people call them transversal skills. I'm interested on just on your side in what do you believe in our response human skills for the job that you're now doing? Or doing all this tech and all this stuff that's floating around?
I take one, I would say curiosity. It's always been important. It's even more important now. You can't just take what ChatGPT is giving you a face value. It gives you a good starting point, but you need to dig deeper and understand. So for me, I've always, people who are willing to just dig deeper, understand it, and get into it. The other part though is I genuinely feel that people who kindness and collaboration will actually become better. I mean, we'll have a kinder workplace and sure, and it would give you, because we don't need to rely on that, and the people who are probably, very strong technically, but may not be the best at interacting with their teammates. And people who understand humans will be people who will be the leaders in the future, and we're all to take that along with the curiosity you cannot negative based on.
Yeah, I like the kindness aspect because I think it brings in that idea of care. That is a key. Or I might open that up as well. Just when I come to you first and then you, Maria, just on this one. That you look back, what skills have you repaid to, I suppose, in terms of this new age of technology? What are you coming back so that your go-tos?
Yeah, no, I think what Anya mentioned is on point, right? If I just expand on the curiosity theme, I think building a learning mindset, much more so than ever before, because again, the rate at which technology is evolving and things are happening around us, we need to always remain very open to looking at what's happening out there, constantly learning, and then trying to figure out how do we can exploit or leverage that technology to create value, right? And that does require a certain level of big picture thinking. And my fundamental belief also is that real value will get created at the intersection of different domains. So working cross-functionally, across the globe, across different teams, across different domains, I think will become very, very important, because I do believe that known existing tasks will get accelerated, leveraging technology, then the real value creation will move one level up across those. That may not be really a soft, the soft skill or the human skill from that perspective, but I think it's a mindset shift that's very important. On the human side, again, the constantly accelerating pace of change and how to get people comfortable with that change. And I think that brings us back to the kindness aspect, perhaps, is that there's going to be so much turmoil in the environment that how do we make sure that people remain centered through that? So empathy, kindness, all of those attributes, all of those facets, again, become even more important in this environment and this world.
Question relates to people going off on shows doing these sessions, so just so you know, okay? You guys don't know what kind of questions were you going to ask them. Does anybody know of something called TRIZ? TRIZ? Does anybody know what TRIZ is? Hold up, thank you very much. Stop the class, gold star. TRIZ, guys, basically is the only structured creative thinking methodology out there. It's created by Russia in the 1950s. All you recognize is 85% of the challenge that we face in the world are already solved somewhere else. We just don't have our mindset to break through barriers, in terms of our curiosity. So I think I just wanted to bring that out there. You know, if you one thing you learn from this session, or apart from this today's panel, remember Trish, you're going to sound really clever in part, because you're sitting here in the corner. I'm not sure which, okay? So Rhea, I might ask you just the same question. And really for me it's a question, day to day, how are you falling back? Right? We know we use a lot of AI in our own, in future work, it's true. But what are you finding you're coming back to, you know, in those more hidden skills?
Yeah, I think align with the growth mindset and curiosity. Since like haptic dots, more than ever, we receiving so much information. Being that guiding light as a manager to count in small, but also connecting the dots. You have people, we have culture, we have data, we have, you know, stress factors, the pressures of the day of the operational part of the role. It is connecting those dots in the calm sense of being and be able to communicate this with fluency. And I particularly, you know, English is not my first language, as any policy, and I utilize a lot of AI to, you know, all the swirling thoughts in my mind to be able to fluidly communicate with my team. I put all the thoughts in there, and then comes very eloquent voice saying what I really wanted to say in a nutshell.
I'm just making a note here.
And because AI gives you this extra source, right? It's in-house, you can only see how you think and feel, and but AI can see this more global aspect of, oh, this person interrupt today, that this person interrupted this. So if you input well, he sees it the right false way to get better with your team.
No, that is going to actually on to my next question. Look, I suppose all of us are swirling around in the AI stuff at the moment, and you know, we're hearing that phrase AI literacy, right? I'm interested in what you guys are doing in your team and yourself, you know, in terms of where you are in that AI journey. You know, what are you guys trying out by sharing a impression? What are you guys trying as a team? You know, where are you on that journey? How up to speed are you and advice in the team? Where are you there?
We're very early. Okay, it's great. The biggest challenge we've overcome is the culture of being embarrassed that I used AI, right? And so people are using it, but they're not admitting they're using it. So what we started doing is like a Friday AI 15 minutes, a 15-minute session where people go, well, how do I use AI, basically? And the reason for that is to try and encourage the teams to share their experiences, not be embarrassed about it. I'm like, I remember every time when, you know, oh, you use Google's find the answer. Oh, now it's like, I didn't use. We want the same culture of making sure it's okay to use AI because, but you know, you obviously frustrated and had that critical thinking, but the culture shift actually in admitting you're using it is going to be actually one of the hardest parts to overcome. Is keeping all using it in various space. So we're doing that's helping a lot and it's changing the culture of experimentation and the curiosity. Let's name one. And the biggest challenge we have is we need to come up with a you know, clear policy. It's not that, you know, allows the freedom to experiment.
Yeah. I asked you a question, within your team, are there any particular individuals that become, you know, the go-to person for it? Then there's always that one person.
Yes, it doesn't hear Craig is that.
Well, let's Craig. Okay, all questions go to Craig after the session. So Craig, you're probably looking at this, but not out of this question, sorry. So power user here, just the second row. We need them after the session. Yeah, that does one come interesting. You know, also see one person that all seems to.
Yeah, and you know, you do need a clear advocates who are leading the way and challenging things. So I think we two people who are like, I tried it didn't work for me, I'll go back to my old place. And then the reality is, you know, okay, you know, we have to keep pushing on and trying to use it to help us do our AKA job. You know, you have to seek your job. It's cannot use that.
Yeah. And are you comfortable with yourself in terms of the okay, so you keeping up to speed, or is it mostly?
These skateboards, my job is actually keeping up to speed on it.
Even given that process.
Well, yeah, I don't think I'm necessarily doing the next job at it, but actually I have to say so. But I can say, the challenge is it's so fast, you know, and you don't want, you know, team with 20 people using 20 different tools either, right? That's not good. So what we're doing is, you know, we're keeping track because we're 2 people experimenting and we're encouraging the team to write down what they're experimenting in and then others can go to them so that in it. But at some point you do need to consolidate. I just told him we're there yet because the pace of change and new dealing is so fast.
Yeah, I understand.
We're doing some interesting stuff on the NX side, so that'll be up to the lens of some work we're doing, or
Yeah, within this percentages of that, because points that you highlighted that at home with our partners and friends, we are AI methods, right? Just all this still cookie literature. We are really proud to show how tech savvy we are. But we go to work and everyone is using AI in the corner, one seamless cleaner. So we're making research of how to remove the shame of utilizing AI to actually unbranch your possibilities at work and being more open about it. And the other side, we partner with a tool called Lua Health, and we did a webinar last week on that one that runs in background. So all your communications in your company, it's can be Slack, Teams, emails, wherever get your communications flow agile, and then goes to the linguistic of how we communicate and how well we communicate and how silent is that team's communication, right? And can really see burnout, resilience, can predict attraction in the company. And because it runs ever constantly in the background, it's not something that you feel that you're being monitored constantly there. And then managers have a dashboard that can see the aggregated data and see, okay, my sales team is super stressed at the moment, what is going on then? Could be just a high peak and understanding because of the situation that is happening. But if it is a constant, what can we do? What actions can we put in place to kind of mitigate that? So that's a nice way to utilize AI to have and help managers to have that extra human connection, because you have data that manages logic, right? To back it up that you need to action something else. Other thing that I see more managers doing is that when you become a manager, it's very hard to find good coaches, sounding board person that you can also have a truthful conversation. You go to your peers because sometimes in competition you can go to your employees and ask them how to manage it because they are the problem, right? But sometimes the company will provide that mentorship and coaching that not always in, right? So you go to books, podcasts, and etc. You go to a seminar, the things don't match. You go back to work, day to day. It's like, okay, I learned this in a seminar. That's my reality. My technical, like people, the day-to-day, how we communicate is completely different. So how we integrate this information, utilizing AI to be that thinking, that sounding board, that thinking partner with you can really help you to, because managers tend to be really good at technical skills and they become like more and more senior, but they're not necessarily great at people managing. And AI can really help you to see all the perspectives and integrate more, communicating better with your team.
So now, just Jim, I actually ask you about, you mentioned a couple of times now, while we're in re-earning, we're now know that we're in this quick wave of change. So interested in your perspectives on building that culture of resilience, learning. I'll ask you that same question when we come to you as well. I'm just interested in some of the things that you've done, some of the things you're doing to really implement that type of culture. I was actually interviewing an author a couple of weeks ago, and they said, look, uncertainty is now the thing that we have to get comfortable with. So it's a thing that we need to build competency around. So then I'm interested in your perspective.
Yeah.
That's just
No, that's a great question, and you're right. I think, again, some level of uncertainty and ambiguity has always been a part of the technology industry, given how rapidly things change, except that things are changing much more rapidly right now. So it's the pace of change that's, I think, starting to get to us. And we definitely need to build organizations that are resilient. You use that word. I think that's a very important word going forward, because resilience is all about how are you going to deal with this rapid change in this tough environment and come out strong at the other end. From our perspective, I think it's a more open dialogue about what it takes to succeed in this environment, both as individuals and as organizations. I think it starts with that open dialogue, because culture can also not be static, right? I mean, the way I look at it is that culture is what's going to help you succeed, and what helped you succeed 5 years ago may not be the same in a shifting environment. So culture also has to evolve with time and with the environment. So I think the first step there is having a more open dialogue about what it takes to succeed in today's environment. Once we have that level set, and things keep changing. So I talked about learning, right? Constantly encouraging the mindset of learning. encouraging a mindset of risk-taking, encouraging a mindset of experimentation with technology, right? Using new technology and sharing it. On you're talking about, sharing with each other. I think those are all attributes of culture that would have been useful maybe 5 years ago, but they're almost becoming an imperative today, right? And you would not highlight that unless there is an open discussion. I don't think any one individual, be it a manager or the CEO, can come up with those answers. But collectively as a team having that discussion, I think we can uncover and discover what it takes to succeed. So I think that's one aspect, is to have a much more open discussion about what it takes to succeed and what it means from a cultural perspective. And then I think as leaders, our job really becomes one of role modeling. And in the role modeling, it's all about being humble and being vulnerable and acknowledging I don't have all the answers, so let's figure it out together. I think that's a very, very important attribute. So the whole space of role modeling becomes very important for us as leaders. And then positive reinforcement. And I think that works wonders when you're trying to create organizational culture. So it's a combination of those kinds of things that I think are going to be, again, have always been important, but become much more so important going forward.
Well, you might contribute to that one as well.
Yeah, I don't think he's figured it all out yet. And Netgear is going through a huge change in leadership and transformation overall, plus everything, that every other company is tackling as well. We have a lot of weight team members, so, what Monday is, we're encouraging, the in-person interactions of trying to do more of that, because, even in life, right, finding an group of people who have similar challenges helps, right? I mean, it was talk out. You want to have the same in the workplace, right, where you have 4 people we chat to, understand, and have a event that some days and would feel, offload. And so that is really important. I think having the human involved, if you're sitting in a room, you're not going to be able to, you feel very isolated. Send bad things, changing or other emails to say, no, we want to start using this way, or do this way. It's like, not again. And then, even see teams going, we're too busy to start using AI. And you probably have it, and then so it's giving that in-person interaction, I think, is important, even if everyone's fully remote, trying to find those eyes, that in person. And you can keep a little braver right now at that, right? Somehow we just keep going. And NCC say, where the AI of gap, we're selling more tasks, just go faster, all companies go, it's a 20% efficiency. It's not like we're using that 5% to give people a bit of time to breathe or say correct. It's like it's way to send more work, right?
Yeah. So, I'm interested in that. So if I try to come back to both your flanks there, we're looking at the younger generation, where tons of research has shown that a lot of our younger generations don't actually have that in their positions. And there are organizations that are rapidly changing. I'm just interested in your perspectives on all of this AI stuff, right? And these are your personal views, but is it having positive or negative impacts on our culture? Are we creating something that in a few years' time we'll look back and go, what the hell were we thinking here, right? Because that's not my game to take about the younger generation of work, high stress, low resilience, that's change, right? I'm of a particular generation, some of you also are, sitting here. I'm just interested, you might talk to you, Marie, on this just to get going, right? And, good or bad, where does end up for the next generation of workers that are coming into organizations?
Yeah, I think AI is not really an issue. We utilize, so it's a school of thought, right? So what are you feeling? Which data is in there? And I think it's hard to perceive the future in there, and the bigger impact of what we'll have for that. I think the illusional missions I had for you, the monolith openers, applicable skills of that. You need in future, right? And Scott's probably help me acquire kids when that. I think resilience. We talk a lot about resilience, and as a psychologist, I've seen this monument are we're heights. When the pastors come to a meeting, they want to well-being program because they want to increase resilience. The building's on fire, right? And they want people to read and calm and go through it. But that's not the issue. The issue is, are you providing tools for your leadership management team to be able, because what really brings you resilience is your relationship with your manager. And how well can this person contain the stress and communicate the information to the rest of the team. Are they passing through the stubbornness completely, or they are being able to retain it and communicate it and focus in providing a space to the rest of the employees? So yes, resilience, it's great to have. If the building's on fire, reading through it will not resolve the issue. And it's not an HR issue. I think people just shown this to HR, or they will know that it is a cultural change, it's a mindset change. The managers needs to be fully integrated. And I say this a lot to our clients, like investing in leadership development and giving them the coaching, the mentoring, it's never waste of the money. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I might come to you on that one as well. Just overall view in terms of, so if I'm standing back wearing my usual pragmatic hat, right, I see a lot of organizations now kind of going, oh, actually, AI is going to enable us to do, some of that your point, 20% of this stuff for their people, right? And there's a number of organizations standing back and saying, all of this, nicey stuff is good, but at the end of the day, we're going to now have 400 people instead of 700 people. And that has an immediate impact on society before we reskill and get there. So if I was to stand back from where we're currently looking at AI, you mentioned earlier, through the lens of productivity, looking at things through the lens of productivity can often be in this lens and can, turn to interesting decisions around the organization. So within that context, what's your personal view on all this stuff,
Yeah.
Sure, but positive first.
No, yeah, absolutely right, absolutely right, Barry. And I think we can look at the impact of AI through two different lenses. Productivity is one, but I'm talking about a different set of lenses. Right? There is the scarcity mindset lens that says that I'm going to need 400 and not 700 people, which means 700 jobs will go away. And there's a different lens that says AI is going to allow me to do the work I'm doing today with fewer people. What opportunities does it create for me to create more value for my company, for my customers, for society, and grow the pipeline, so to speak. So that would be an abundance mentality to say, what opportunity does it present? I'm more optimistic about the impact of AI on society, and I'm choosing to look at it through that lens. And yes, that lens also has certain implications. In fact, I was having an interaction with some of our colleagues, was it the day before yesterday, and I categorically told them, I said, I can guarantee you that none of you will be doing the exact same job, the exact same way 3 years from now. All of our jobs are going to get impacted because of AI. And that brings us full circle back to the fact that we need to remain curious, we need to have a learning mindset, we need to be prepared to brace for this change. Because every single one of our jobs will change. I don't know how the rest of the group here feels, but I firmly believe that none of us will be doing the exact same work, the exact same way 3 years from now. Maybe even sooner than that. Right? So if I look at it through that mindset, I mean, every time we had a major technological breakthrough and we were able to automate certain things, there was this concern that jobs will go away. The reality bears out the fact that jobs did not go away. Right? It just created newer opportunities and different types of jobs. So I see no reason why the future would be any different. Right? So again, but those core attributes of constantly learning, being open to change, being comfortable with change, being resilient through this phase, those will become important both for us as leaders, but for all individuals in general.
Well, I ask you all a personal question now. Got a couple more questions. There's only to open up to the audience. So, lots of nice talk. What you guys personally did to remain relevant as leaders and managers in this new, changing world of work? I'm sure everybody out there is a little bit worried about some of the stuff that's going on. So what do you personally do? Because we have all these nice words, but what's your approach? Right? What are you kind of doing to keep yourself relevant, keep yourself in the conversation? You're not to be replaced by an agentic AI, you're a robot, or what are you doing?
Well, I suppose first of all, I'm very optimistic, yes, and I actually think it will feel better culture in the workplace, because I think we will hire will be more that intersection between you and she. So there'll be people who understand people, right? And that will lead to an overall kind of workplace, because when we hire, we'll be looking for that more and more. So that's your question, though. I think it, you know, we're as leaders, we're all the same as everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Just try to keep up at the moment. I think you're definitely changing how we look at our team formation and making sure there's the support network and mentorship available, and how we structure our organization is already changing. And that it's, I do think, you know, a lot of it is making sure the teams have the space and the safety net. So Chris said a lot, safety, you know, we don't get past, but in terms of relevance, I think we have to embrace it. We're making sure that our team are in the forefront of adopting the efficiency and also it's all about, you know, from the CEO level, it's purpose, right? You want to have a team, but he also wants us to make sure that we're delivering on time and on schedule, and so this so.
Glastonbury is you know, and you're right back in the middle of working in this area. Connection between AI and level of empowerment and self-management. So, you know, from our work, well, AI is really changing the role of leaders. It's more of an orchestrator, conductor. You know, he was ultimately you're getting a level of self-management that has been really available for the last number of years. So what do you think is going to happen to your role as a leader?
I think there is a level of self-management, but our job will more be like a psychologist.
Yeah.
I always feel like it's been the depth of us 10 years as well, right? And but I think more and more it would be that, right? We have to hire a leader to care about people and not, and you know, obviously you need a certain campaign skill, right? In technology, we have a lot of, you know, traditionally you are a person who knows the most about AWS or Azure or chips or whatever else, and I think in future we'll have to hire you can mentor.
Yeah. Amazing. Let's now open up to you, Claude. Yeah, we're not come to you. So AI level of empowerment does.
Yeah, I'll go back a little bit to say
Of course.
that I'm not pessimist, but I'll have a blowback and my dad, okay? And my child goes to forest school to learn how to make fire. So I'm in that really middle term.
Yeah.
I can see the potential, and our brain, you know, tends to get positive in change, but also I'm unrealistic. Which tools and which skills can I give to the next generation to be able to survive the situation that could happen, right? I think what I'm doing to make myself relevant for a pilot, because I think is really important, is being here, being present, being seen, creating my own network of people that know me and know my value and know that I'm more than just a machine. Because when things reshuffle and jobs are lost, is your personal brand that will keep you there, because people personally know you, connect with you, and know what you can do and can shift. They have a growth mindset that all comes together, obviously, but it's really rooted in your connections and the people that you know. And technology is great, and you have to, I mean, it's part of the job. There's no other way around it. It's like using a mobile or, you know, a computer these days, but it is the people that will make you rooted in what you're doing.
No, Barry, that mindset of curiosity and constantly learning from different organizations, different people, looking at how others are exploiting this technology and creating value, what can be learned from them and how can that help us? Because you rightfully pointed out, and we don't have to reinvent the world. There's lots of people out there that are experimenting, trying things out, some working, some not working. I don't have to be the leader in everything. I can be a fast follower if that's good enough. But I think I need to have that mindset of being very, very curious and recognizing the fact that the world is changing and I need to keep up. I think it starts with that. What I'm afraid of is a lot of people who take that ostrich approach of putting their head in the sand and hoping it will go away. This isn't going away. Like this is real. This is real. So I can just.
You will book title the ostrich approach. I'll see that on the cover. Yeah. That's your book and assessment. It's like yours.
That's my next project.
That's what I do. Yeah. Okay, guys. So we're going to come to the end of this part. I'm going to open up for some Q&A. I do want to just finish. I always ask this question because it's just a question I always kind of remember at the end of these sessions. Can each of you give me in 3 words that's going to sum up management? up the next 5 years? Let's I'm going to start with you. Because you're looking very smooth there, so it sounds. It looks to me as though you've already prepared your answer to this.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
So 3 words only, just that you're
I almost struggle with 3 words. Can I have 3 phrases?
God, yeah, it's up to you.
Not a negotiable a little bit.
Yeah, just being very productive, you're only allowed 3 words.
I'll have to leave it and go to 4. I think change leadership is going to be a very important aspect. Resilience, extremely important, and being much more humane. I think those would be the 3 pillars that I would characterize as what's going to be most important for leadership going forward.
Okay. Yeah.
Human connection, growth mindset, there's a touch to resilience, right? And really,
Empathy, curiosity, music.
You will fact. Okay, that's nobody's strong preference. Okay, guys, we might open up the audience just for a couple of questions. As I said, please feel free to put your hand up and ask away. So, you read this?
You go to my tap it out.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Yeah, you like there. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Good morning, all. Thank you for your insights. So it's the touch of a bit on this, both on the human element and I suppose our most important asset, which is our ego. And obviously, companies like Cadence or that here, you've had a multinational workforce for decades now, and you fully appreciate the value of that. And that was what I see in the course of my work with the corporate immigration. We see perhaps SMEs or smaller companies that they now need this international talent, but they wouldn't have the same approach due to, in the sense that I see companies telling you hire, well, we'll look after your own integration. You don't need all your own, do your own work permit. I think that's problematic from an operational perspective, a culture perspective, and certainly a human perspective. So I suppose what advice would you give to those companies that are now entering the international market? What have been your areas in that regard?
I'm going to answer a little bit and a little up to the other, because actually we've done a lot of work on this space. I think a really important word, it kind of has come up on it really in conversation, is this idea of care. Right, so I mean, we don't have to have huge amount of resources or huge amounts of people that to pay to, but if we have a core competency of care, this come up in our research that we did with about 65 organizations. Many of them are small and medium-sized companies, and I think if you give a level of care, then that should mean something, right? I mean, say you take care of somebody moving into a new country, it means you take care of them if they don't work out in your organization. And people often asking, well, what's the next advantage for our organization or in this new world? And for me, it's actually care. And that sounds really soft, but it's a lot more specific and human. Because if you care for somebody, you have an instinctive understanding of what that means. And we know, for example, take your example, which is a brilliant example, expecting people to sort out a very complicated process for them to then come and, for the honor of working with your organization is not care. Right, so I think care is going to be extremely important word, and I think you mentioned on yourself, you mentioned that you go with a psychologist. It's actually psychology is a subset of care, really, for all intents and purposes. So are we seeing it, broadly? No. And there are organizations that still need to develop what absolutely, because still 50% of people are leaving organizations because of a toxic work environment. 35% of people are leaving organizations because of poor leadership. 45% of people is no social connection in business. So there's a lot of work to be done. I think we started that whole idea of care. I think that permeates. I just wanted to share some of the research. So go for you guys.
Yeah, I think the good care, you engage the people straight coming in, right? Also removing the stress of the situation. So that person will not be fully there until all this is sorted. At 10 months, if you have a legal team, use that legal team because they got to be quick and provide a level of care. I've been there, done that, and I brought to a company that provided the whole
how does this support when I was needing, even it's like, but now we go there now because this is the time. Um, and I was back to work as I'm okay, this is my place to be. You feel fully looked after, and obviously you listen, right? When you go back to your desk, you said, wow, be engaged, I'm here.
Sorry, Faisal, I'll come to you next. Is that okay? Yeah, thank you. You look very comfortable with that seat, Sarah.
Morning, Catherine Sheridan, DFB. Thanks for a fantastic panel. I'm going to wear my version of my seat now and ask a question because I really want to be impactful from this. So my experience, obviously, was 50 years ago was so different from the experience that the new generation have come in its birthplace. And I have that lived memory that I'm trying to put down to change towards other care. So that's urgent, and I think another thought of it is to do with the graduation on jobs market as like could be are. So, graduation in 98, it was great to have jobs, but it just that sort of piece. But now the expectation on borders is so much greater, and I had sort of a personal reaction to it, and I just find it hard to overcome. I hope I'm not the only person who's such a heartless bitch, but there you go. So just wondering for some advice on that.
I love that because they push buttons, right? And I love them. And you see them and they know what they want and they work hard. And it's something that we should definitely learn more of. We tend to be, and I can say as a woman, to be labeled as a good girl. We were like, don't complain, show up on time, do your job, don't escalate things, don't hear no. They're fearless. And mentally, 4th year getting students when they're in the transition from university to the real big world, and they know what they want, and they're not afraid to ask. So I sometimes they catch me mocked and actually, I think people sure about that because we didn't do it, and we push down this in us, and they're not afraid to show it. So it's the impact of our shows like that. So,
I think there's a reaction on now to that in an audit fair preparation for talking about, where with JB Morgan, they for Sarah Bag and we've decided we call it snowflakes, right? But the reality is that was a symptom of during COVID, we had a short people and so it swings employer to employee having the greater weight. Hopefully we'll find many rep. But you needed to act. So probably very good. You almost were, if you're like, the pilot was, ticking the box, I can't name you 4 or 5, like 30. So, but an optimist, I think would find that many ground. I think it is starting to change practice up there again, and artists, the music like tweaks. Is that
Just taking a slightly different list to your question, I think you're also talking about the challenges of managing a multi-generational workforce, right? There's a big difference between what we experienced and what we grew up with, what we are seeing. And I think we sometimes fall into the trap of right or wrong or bad. I just believe that we need to be much more open and acknowledge that it's different, not necessarily right or wrong. And as leaders, it's our responsibility to acknowledge the fact that in the workplace you're going to have 4 or 5 generations. The number of years we've been generations is shrinking, so maybe we'll end up being a bit more. And each generation has different expectations, different preferences, different styles. And how do we create an environment where all the generations can thrive together? I think it's a work in progress, but that is really what we need to strive towards.
I think it's interesting just to kind of back up some of that stuff. I think it's easily like to describe it as we talk a lot about this in Future Urban Institute. We move from career, you mentioned your career, there's parts of that, got a job, then got a good company working a career. We're in the age of experience now. And the reality is, so a lot of these people don't actually know to even work with companies anymore. Right? So remember, for the first time ever, basically you can earn anything for free. That never happened before. You can go onto YouTube, more or less, okay, so that's the first time we've had access to everything. Secondly, like you become a global expert in niche area. So I might maybe make €1,000 of each client, also I not make 150,000 globally. So remember the broader context of this as well is also that, people are now realizing that two companies of theirs, actually meet the needs, got their experiences that they want to create. So, we can look at things like, so social media influencers, all this kind of stuff, whether you like them up, points. The point is they've got tools, free tools, they've got access, and therefore they create their own experiences up there. I think that for me is the opportunity. The opportunity for me is, are you genuinely go different in your work? And how do you actually look differently around how you communicate and what it means to be present? And for all the research that's struggling by, people going back to work, our research shows more than 75% of organizations on form of flexible working. So it hasn't gone away. It might bore slightly, but flexible working hybrid on stuff is here to stay. Every common change to performance. So I think that's the challenge for Chandler, where is just really around how do we create experiences that actually engage these type of people. In Canada, this is what really worries me. Working from an organization perspective is a lot of the brilliant people, a lot of the really brilliant people who really want to work for business anymore. I think it was me maybe 30 years ago, no disrespect to my current organization, I probably was good. So I think that's really interesting. I think it's exciting. I think we're not really harnessing that. Just one funny anecdote, because I do want to share this. We did a table because an organization with different generations, and only about 15% of each generation's phrases were actually understood. So you had all these people talking to each other. These are idiots. These people. The other group of what these are also idiots. I know it's, this level in school. That'll be easier for.
What I have seen many clients doing is reverse conversion. So there's so much to learn with this new generation that also vice versa, there's a lot for them to learn to understand, right? And it's not just about communications, mindset, ways where to take is professional, they perceive that it's not professional, and vice versa. So that could be something that's integrating and will help.
I'd like to see the start. Thank you. If I got a Microsoft, please.
Okay, so first of all, great discussion, by the way. The thing I find was most interesting to me was the fact that coming back to human factor. And for me, obviously technology and AI brings lots of efficiency in our jobs every day. The worry I have is that at the bottom end or the root of innovation are people and teams. And especially for the younger generation, where I see a concern for me is that it become more solo. They use technology rather than 20 years ago. If I had a problem, I would have turned to a colleague. We had a good team. In the future, I want to make sure that there's a fear around interpersonal skills. They're not up to where 10 years ago and so forth. Again, kids with phones. Again, probably concentrating a little on the younger generation, but. How do we counteract that? How do we build this culture? How do we make sure that I know I heard one interesting scenario where some companies were bringing in interns, but they consider that the people they were going to hire were intelligent, but they feared around the interpersonal skills. So they were bringing them out on lots of social events to see, and we're picking the people we want to hire based on their interpersonal skills. And that's where we seem to start to lose. And I suppose concentration as well. So how do we counteract that?
I'm happy to. So we talk about care a lot, and it reminds me of a hospital situation where they're digitalizing M&A. And what they found is when people were going around getting the temperature, the blood pressure, the nurse are missing that opportunity to have a little chat. And right, I understand how someone is healing. It's the same in the workplace, right? If you have AI answering all your technical questions, you sort of just see that little tremble in your voice or that you're a bit down today. And I think it's really quirky. Like we need to be mindful to actually have those touch points. Often you might go to someone to have a chat about a project and you end up talking that, someone in their family died. And then that's how you form those connections. So we need to make sure we have those opportunities to keep doing that. I know this will focus on what it was. And there's the iPad conversations where you catch those ticks. Agree. The human interaction, we people understand you and we can, even from a project perspective, understand how the person who's the end user using your app on your phone, there's people, you want to be able to think they're from me, understand people and collaborate are going to do the skills of the teacher. So
No, I agree with the question that you asked. I don't have that. No, but the human, I mean, you mentioned in that discussion multiple times that you're acknowledging the fact that the human dimension is becoming much more important going forward, especially for managers and leaders. And your point is valid that wherever we are, the Gen Zs, the latest generation that's coming into the workplace, they're all digital natives. They are used to a different way of doing things. And we need to make a conscious effort to help integrate them into the workplace and to help them realize the importance of the human and social skills going forward, including in the age of AI. Because the tasks will get performed by the machines. It's the human interaction is where the real value will reside. Right? Even if you look at jobs of the future, right, with all these wonderful advances in generative AI, agentic AI, and physical AI, a lot of the work is going to get done by the machines. What will be the work left for us humans to do? Is what the machines can't do. And what's that? It's to be human. So I think having a much more open discussion about it and creating that realization is step one in the journey, and that of course actually helping them build those skills to pose and code. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Just analyzing it on outside is strategic, and I don't wait for organic connection. I schedule my lunch, I know my calendar, if the resident take a lunch break, right? So schedule time for those interactions that used to be organic, used to be in the canteen, in the coffee shop. Schedule the time, not just to ask about the task, how, when you're gonna deliver, but about other things. For example, if there's anything you can do to help you deliver the task. It's more support than task orientated, less transactional, more human. So you only have to be more strategic, because the organic of the connection of the day-to-day sometimes disappears. If we're not in office, if we have global teams, if we don't see that every day. But you need to be more present in that sense of, being there.
You made a great point about even being in the office. Like for me, we talk about resilience as well and mental health. But to me, a lot of that has been imparted by the fact that people have been obviously long top of what we went through for a few years there. But I think that was the biggest impact, was the fact that people weren't around, you hadn't got that team spirit, and you don't build it. It's the resilience you build around you, the people you can depend on. Sitting at home, you don't get that, and that's part of the big problem that we discovered over the past few years.
And those graduates went through COVID in university, which is the formative years of socializing, to be honest. And if you miss out on those socializing years, we all changed during our university years, and I don't think you see it. And a lot of our youth coming in, they don't have the social skills. They didn't stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's lecture at 9 a.m. And we need to help them on it, but they miss out on a big part of their life and growing up, and I see that. And you're seeing that interview tactic of bringing about seeing such things. Some of that option, right, to see, but you don't have to help them because they did miss out in those years. And I think interesting word out of the universities, they put world training on humans, and people who can keep people. You also need a computer science degree, and how do you marry those? Universities are not producing computer science graduates who understand people, right? And how is that changing? Like press, put more about it.
Awesome. So guys, I think we thank you very much for your question, and we might leave it there, guys. So I'm just going to say thank you very much to fantastic panel. I do want to say thank you very much to Maeve and for Cadence for hosting this here. Hopefully this works. So I'm going to flash something up here. Yeah, guys, for anybody here today, take a scan of that QR code and you're going to get free access to our future work world as never. That'll give you access to multiple talks, events, research papers, everything, you know, we might find interesting, good future work will be there. So please join on us, and I look forward to seeing you at the next events. And I just want to say, particular Justin, I want to call you out on this one. Justin has been a very good support of FIFA for Napper. And I think just under your own saying, so you're go with your second career, I think, for us to offer Cadence. So I do only call Justin under for your Zabos. And thanks Cadence, and thank you all for attending the event today. Thank you very much today. Thank you.